envy, and jealousy. In this country, it's amazing. And if you look at our political systems, the way it's designed, it enhances jealousy and envy. It empowers envy and jealousy. So it has become a vicious cycle where we have become a society of bringing down one another. Yeah, bringing down one another. And I don't want to be political. But if you look at people like Zoom Lion and others, Zoom Lion is a Ghanaian. Yeah. But every government that has come will go after Zoom Lion. Because they don't understand why a Ghanaian should make it that big. So they prefer to cut deals with foreigners and let foreigners come in, take our inheritance, and give us crumbs and peanuts, rather than to make deals with a Ghanaian. So any government that comes, they'll tell them that this man is MPP, or this man is NDC. He's an enemy of our party. He's an enemy of state. He's an enemy of the nation. Pull him down, bring him down, and we'll take away everything he has to give it to foreigners. Sometimes when you are traveling on the Springtex Road, you will see shops, different things. Thank you, Ghana. And another one say, I love Ghana. Ghana is good. Yeah. There's no name they haven't named me, so I'm not worried anymore about talking. Because whether I talk or not, there are people who believe me I'm NDC. And there are people who believe I'm MPP. And there are others who believe I don't belong anywhere. And there are those who also believe that I've lost my way. And some also believe I don't know where I'm going or where I belong. You can think whatever you want to think. You are entitled to your opinion. Amen.
So did you hear the Archbishop Duncan Williams? And the discussions about what he said has ranged from people who are asking that, so if a Ghanaian company does something wrong, should we not punish them? And we're here with this opinion editorial today to explain what our view is on the matter. What is our view on that question? Duncan Williams says you should save Ghanaian business, says that Nigerians have created Aliko Dangote, they have created Mike Adenuga, and they have created other people. They have created indigenous banks in Nigeria, etc., etc. We have not in 62 years of independence been able to create a single indigenous bank. You know, we didn't show that part of the video, but he did say that as well. And the question being asked is, so if banks do something wrong, if companies do something wrong, should we overlook it just because they are Ghanaians? That's the answer that we want to give today. We have found the answer to that question, and we'll give it tonight in this opinion editorial. If you're just joining us, this Good Evening Ghana is live. And tonight we have two other interviews coming up. Al-Hassan Suhini will be talking to us about the NDC press earlier today. The minority in parliament spoke about the state of the economy, and they dropped some important bombshells. They said that members of the MPP are part and parcel and responsible for the collapse of the banks, and are responsible for the receiver of the banks not collecting his money because some monies are with them that they should return. What are these monies? We'll be asking Al-Hassan Suhini about that. That seemed to be the big headline from the NDC press on the economic situation and the bank collapse today. Dr. Kwesi Enin, the security expert from the Kofi Annan Peacekeeping Center, will later walk us through why we have the situation that we have in the security apparatus, especially with the police. Should we be urging the president to name an IGP very, very quickly so that we can get the ball rolling? Should that be part of the solution of the latest and current spate of feared insecurity around the country, given that policemen are being attacked? But we have not finished with Duncan Williams. Let's hear him again.
The level of insecurity, envy, and jealousy in this country is amazing. And if you look at our political systems, the way it's designed, it enhances jealousy and envy. It empowers envy and jealousy. So it has become a vicious cycle where we have become a society of bringing down one another. Yeah, bringing down one another. And I don't want to be political. But if you look at people like Zoom Lion and others, Zoom Lion is a Ghanaian. Yeah. But every government that has come will go after Zoom Lion. Because they don't understand why a Ghanaian should make it that big. So they prefer to cut deals with foreigners and let foreigners come in, take our inheritance, and give us crumbs and peanuts, rather than to make deals with a Ghanaian. So any government that comes, they'll tell them that this man is MPP, or this man is NDC. He's an enemy of our party. He's an enemy of state. He's an enemy of the nation. Pull him down, bring him down, and we'll take away everything he has to give it to foreigners. Sometimes when you are traveling on the Springtex Road, you will see shops, they've written, "Thank you, Ghana." And another one say, "I love Ghana." Ghana is good. Yeah. There's no name they haven't named me, so I'm not worried anymore about talking. Because whether I talk or not, there are people who believe me I'm NDC. And there are people who believe I'm MPP. And there are others who believe I don't belong anywhere. And there are those who also believe that I've lost my way. And some also believe I don't know where I'm going or where I belong. You can think whatever you want to think. You are entitled to your opinion. Amen.
So that was Duncan Williams talking about Ghana. And as I said, the question that we want to answer today is those who are asking the very genuine question that those of us who share this opinion about protecting Ghanaian businesses, are we saying therefore that if a company does something wrong, if they don't keep their books, if they violate regulations, if they violate company law regulations, they shouldn't be punished? Is that what we are saying? Yeah, we will answer that question. But I'd just like to congratulate the Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams for boldly making that statement. This is a statement that you need a lot of courage and confidence to make. And he made that in front of his congregation. And you saw that in the end he was talking about, he was anticipating that people were going to come after him, and he said, really, he doesn't mind. He spoke in his mind, and we have to congratulate him for that. We also have to say that he has been quite consistent. The Papa has been consistent with this kind of statement. In an interview that he granted us recently that was quite popular with most of our social media viewers, he said some of these things. We have extracted what he said to justify the consistency of the Archbishop. Here it is.
America have succeeded over the years and the decades to institutionalize their national agenda and set structures.
I like that. You just said America over the years has institutionalized their national agenda.
Yeah, and
I like that.
Serious structures that it doesn't matter who a president is and a party is. When you come into office, you can't change it.
The national agenda.
You can't change it. And if you try to create any problem for their principles, their belief systems, their protocol, they will come after. You see what they are doing to Trump? I mean, and to his children, and to his son-in-law, for him having security clearance. You know, in Africa, one can just say, give my son, or what we are doing right now, we're not going anywhere. Because watch this, I'm telling you, what we are doing right now, I want you to stand, let me show you something. Just stand. If I'm in opposition, just face this way. If I'm in opposition and you are in office, I hold your leg like that. Try to move.
Yeah.
Try to move.
I cannot move.
Try to do something. You are not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I will make sure I circumvent you and sabotage you until you leave office.
Wow.
And when you also come,
same thing.
I will also do the same to you. So I don't wish you well, you don't wish me well. So the nation is bleeding. The nation is bleeding, and no continuity, because when you come, everything I've done, you have to condemn it and let the people know that I was a failure, I was a disappointment, and you have come to fix it. Then when you come and face the reality of what is on the ground, you realize that it's not easy to fix this thing. And then I'm also going to make sure I expose you and let people know that you circumvented me to come, so you must not succeed, and I'll make sure you fail, so I'll come again. So the vindictiveness continues, the hatred continues, the bitterness continues. We are dividing people.
That's not a good story. 15 minutes past the top of the hour, 9 o'clock. This is Good Evening Ghana, live on Metro TV, your current affairs program every Tuesday and Thursday. So that was the Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams. And we're saying to you that we're conducting an opinion editorial here tonight on this matter. I want to answer that simple question about people saying that, so if Ghanaian companies go wrong, shouldn't we punish them? Yes, we should not punish them. Yes, we should not punish them because they are indigenous companies. They've grown up to a certain level. So when the company does something, we should not punish the company. Does it mean we shouldn't punish anybody? No. But we certainly should not punish the company. We should not punish Siao and Tata Brewery for the business, for wrongs that they may have done, contrary to company law, contrary to regulation, so that we can keep the business that at that time was employing about 2,000 people. They were bottlers of alcoholic beverages on the Adom-Otchere Road. It was developed by one single man, Mr. Siao. And he grew and became a very powerful businessman. And he was shut down with the company altogether because there were allegations that there was some tax omissions and some tax circumvention against him. For that reason, the company was closed down and it was sold to foreigners. That's what Archbishop is saying. That company could have been there today. It would have been a Ghanaian behemoth of an alcoholic beverage bottler. We would have had that. We would have had a Ghanaian behemoth of an alcoholic beverage bottler. It would have had branches all over the country. It would probably have had branches in other African countries. Mr. Siao was shut down by the J.J. Rawlings people in June 4, 1979, that they said that he had had some issues with taxes. And the company and the assets of the company were sold to foreigners. Later on, when Mr. Kufuor became president, the family of Mr. Siao went to court against the government and they got some things back because the government of Mr. Kufuor recognized that what was done was wrong. So we are saying that when Ghanaian companies grow up to that level, they do something. No, you cannot punish them. What you can do is you can punish individuals who are responsible for these things. Even if the individual is a majority shareholder, you can still punish him so that you would have kept Siao's company alive. You could have punished Siao and taken him to court, and the court process could have taken 5 years. They may or may not have found him guilty. If they found him guilty, he would have served the punishment of a jail term, or he would have served some other punishment. He would have come back. He would have lost some of his interest in the company, but the company named Tata Brewery will still have been there today. And it would have represented the pride of Ghana and the image of Ghana. It would have employed a lot of people. When you shut down the company, the thousands of people that are employed go away. Siao keeps his money. And mind you, go around and check, and we have checked. All the people whose companies have been shut, they've not gone broke. No, they haven't. It is the 1,200 people that they employ who go home, who have nothing to hold on to. It's them. They are the most affected. If today you shut down some of the big companies we talk about, the people are not going to go broke. The banks that you have collapsed, the owners are not broke. They are not going to go broke anytime soon. It is the people who work there who have had to go home. 2,000 people, they're gone home. All they had is their monthly salary of 2,000 cedis. That's all they had. The shareholder didn't have a monthly salary of 2,000 cedis. He had many other businesses. But the guy who left university and left the Polytechnic, who was working there as a teller, as a relationship manager, he had a salary of 2,800, 3,400. Out of that, he could take a loan. He could get married. He could pay money for his mother. He could do that. He could save and buy an Uber. He could take a loan and buy an Uber and give to a driver and make ends meet. And then he takes that money, goes back to school. That's a master's degree. Comes back. He's doing that. He's doing that. Before you see, he's head of corporate of the company. And now he also becomes. Then his younger brother, he pays his school fees for him. That's what you've cancelled. That is what you've shut down. When you close down the bank, it's not the boss. It's not a shareholder. He's okay. He has money abroad. He has money all over the place. It is that young man who had a future in working in a Ghanaian company that you've shut down, thrown away, thrown him onto the street, thrown him to Bola. That's what you've done. That's what Rawlings did to Siao's company. When they closed down Tata Brewery, some people didn't recover and they died in the 80s. So that's what Duncan Williams is talking about. We are not saying that you shouldn't punish people, but don't take the company away. You think the company that we buy cars from, Japan, the Toyota people, they've not done anything wrong? You think it's the same shareholders who started Toyota who still have Toyota? No, many things have happened, but the Toyota company is still there. The individuals may not be there. Something may be held. In fact, 4 years ago, the Samsung company in Korea, that was a big deal about some evasion of tax and all of that. People were punished. Nothing happened to the Samsung company. The Samsung company is still running. The people who work there are still working there. They went to work on Monday. The boss may have been arrested on Tuesday. Wednesday, they go back to work. Nothing changes. So you can take the people out, the system can come in and correct the errors. And then if Tata Brewery was still there, Mr. Siam's children can today come and buy more shares in it. So they're 100% shareholder. Their shares are reduced to 15% because of tax evasion. Mr. Siam goes on trial, whatever. 20 years down the line, they can now come back and buy more shares for their family. They can do many things with the company. But when you collapse the company, that's why Duncan Williams is alleging, and we agree with him, that this kind of collapse is motivated by jealousy, is motivated by hatred. It is not motivated by law. No, it's not motivated by law. It's motivated by a personal desire to see another Ghanaian who is succeeding fail. And we have to change that in this country. The generation of people who are listening to me, who are new generation, 30 years and above, you have to have a different mindset that this kind of evil will not be part of your story when you become the people who are leading Ghana 10 years, 12 years, 4 years, 5 years from now. This kind of story where Ghanaians go against themselves and because of a personal hatred for a man or a woman, they have to pull down his company. And then by the time we look around, there's no single Ghanaian company. Every company is Lebanese. The generations of people who are about 40 years old, those who are 36 to 40, maybe 34 to 40, you remember that when we were going to secondary school, you used to shop from a company called A-Life. It was owned by a certain guy, Japan or something like that. A-Life. Yes, they shut it down. For what reason? They said he took some money from Ghana Commercial Bank and the books were dodgy. So they, instead of arresting the man and prosecuting him, they shut down A-Life. And A-Life is gone. It was employing a lot of people. A-Life had cleverly occupied the retail space in Ghana. The import and export for lower upper middle class people was occupied by A-Life. People were leaving Dansoman to come to Teshinungwa to come and shop, to go to Wesley Girls, to go to Achimota, to go to Mpraiso Secondary School, to go to Yasantua Secondary School. Every student who lived in Accra was going to A-Life. There was a queue there. And then what did he do? He put up entertainment at the car park because the queue was very long. So A-Life, when before secondary schools reopened, was like a jamboree. And suddenly they shut it down. Where is that business? Look around, you see. There's one near me here at Metro TV. It's gone to foreigners. The whole A-Life enterprise has gone to foreigners. The lines of A-Life's importation has been given to foreigners. And the foreigners take the money from every Ghanaian who goes to these shops. They exchange said, and like Achampon actually implemented. Sometimes we talk about Kutu Achampon in derogatory terms. But if you look at this aspect of Ghanaian life, Kutu Achampon should be given 5 stars because he it was who became leader of the country and decided that we have to have Ghanaians holding the majority stake in our economy and deliberately went out of his way to create them. B.A. Mensah, Siao, Boache Mattress. He created Ghanaian businesses and left them there. They were richer than him. Yes, they were always going to be richer than him, but that's not the point. Why should all of us be as rich as the businessman? The businessman has a lot to do and he has showed entrepreneurial skill. And we have to recognize that God doesn't give that to everyone. So when it is identified, we have to protect it. When they start a small business, we can ignore them. But when a man passes through small business and becomes like Zoom Lion, and some people think that you should shut the company down and hand the assets over to a foreigner. I mean, can you imagine that? Do you know that right now the Attorney General is dealing with a case in which the assets of B.A. Mensah that has been given to a company whose name I will not mention at the Kaneshi industrial area, that company inherited all the assets of B.A. Mensah. The Attorney General has a matter before her now where the B.A. Mensah lawyers are saying that return the assets to us. And the calculation will amaze you. It's over $30 million. It will shock you. The amount of assets that belong to B.A. Mensah's company that for reasons of tax evasion was taken away from him and given to a foreigner, that the foreigner should run it. Today, the people are claiming the money from the government of Ghana. It's such a huge judgment debt. I'm not sure how government is going to be able to pay. But that's the lot of us. And we have to change that. Let's listen to the Archbishop in church again, and then we'll continue with tonight's edition of Good Evening Ghana. Let's hear him.
The level of insecurity, envy, and jealousy in this country is amazing. And if you look at our political systems, the way it's designed, it enhances jealousy and envy. It empowers envy and jealousy. So it has become a vicious cycle where we have become a society of bringing down one another. Yeah, bringing down one another. And I don't want to be political. But the level of insecurity, envy, and jealousy. So it has become a vicious cycle where we have become a society of bringing down one another. Yeah, bringing down one another. And I don't want to be political. But the level of insecurity, envy, and jealousy. So it has become a vicious cycle where we have become a society of bringing down one another. Yeah, bringing down one another. But if you look at people like Zoom Lion and others, Zoom Lion is a Ghanaian. Yeah. But every government that has come will go after Zoom Lion. Because they don't understand why a Ghanaian should make it that big. So they prefer to cut deals with foreigners and let foreigners come in, take our inheritance, and give us crumbs and peanuts, rather than to make deals with a Ghanaian. So any government that comes, they'll tell them that this man is MPP, or this man is NDC. He's an enemy of our party. He's an enemy of state. He's an enemy of the nation. Pull him down, bring him down, and we'll take away everything he has to give it to foreigners. Sometimes when you are traveling on the Springtex Road, you will see shops, they've written, "Thank you, Ghana." And another one say, "I love Ghana." Ghana is good. Yeah. There's no name they haven't named me, so I'm not worried anymore about talking. Because whether I talk or not, there are people who believe me I'm NDC. And there are people who believe I'm MPP. And there are others who believe I don't belong anywhere. And there are those who also believe that I've lost my way. And some also believe I don't know where I'm going or where I belong. You can think whatever you want to think. You are entitled to your opinion. Amen.
It's been 7 years of thrill, 7 years of drama, 7 years discovering award-winning talent on Ghana's most rewarding and biggest music reality TV show.
Well, if I think now go on where the people can sleep, but when the time comes to me, I have to speak. You are the one to make that do the same.
Welcome to MTN Hitmaker. The quest begins. Live your wildest dreams with MTN Hitmaker. Do you have what it takes to be Ghana's next biggest music sensation? Sign up for the Hitmaker Season 8 and set your music career in motion. 12 great voices, one big deal. Download the Hitmaker app from the Google Play Store to sign up. Entries close by Friday, 20th September 2019. Be the next star the world is waiting for.
We day for you everywhere you go. MTN.
Omanfue Electoral Commission ebo omanfue nyinanka yese efiri ebranda 10 September kopem ebranda 17 September 2019 voters register exhibition no ebaso efiri anopa nonso kopem nwumere no osia obi a wotwere wodin ewa abato din twere homa ne mu efiri 2012 kopem 2019 no esese wo awokọ wo polling station eye baabi a woto waba no na wokohwe se wodin ene wo nsem nyina ewo abato din twere homa ne mu no eye sa pepepe ana wo kwa for voters ID card ko se na beboa ma wodin hwehwe no ayentem Sempo wajira wo ID card no a ubetumi akohwe se wudin ewo homani mu ana ko polling station na yenso wo ha nyina ano ema mo me yensiesie voters register ni mu abra jeyi abusuafo ewu nyina din afiri homani mu se wo ba for burial death ana obituary krata no bra eno beboa ma yatumi ahwe so edi yi ewufo nyina din afiri abato homani mu mo ye nyina mo ma abato homa no enimu se ne ebema abato no mu ada ho fan voters register exhibition ni ehyaase afi ebranda 10 September kopem ebranda 17 September 2019. If you are not on song, copy my numero no sia. Debiara.
Welcome back, and pardon us if you didn't like our editorial, but Hassan Suni is here to give you the real facts of what happened at the NDC press conference today. And later on, Dr. Kwesi Enin will join us. Alhaji, how is Tamale North?
Great.
Congratulations, you got a very resounding victory. Not that it wasn't expected, but it was quite heavy.
I felt very humbled by the overwhelming confidence that the people of Tamale North reposed in me.
Excellent. So you are ready for 2020?
I really feel it is a call to work harder, than I have done before. And I'm sure that the party itself, the flag bearer, John Dramani Mahama, is ready for 2012. And so together as parliamentary candidates from the various constituencies, I bet we are all ready.
If he selects you as running mate, who is going to take over?
Well, I don't think that is something that is going to be considered. So let's not even, dream about it.
I see. Why did the minority feel the need to hold a press conference this morning?
Well, it became important for us to do that because our flag bearer, during his tour, or even before that, engaged a couple of Ghanaians and talked about the banking sector and, raised the question as to whether the approach used by this government was the best approach or the only option available to the government. And he raised, for example, the conduct of the Bank of Ghana, which he thinks, and we agree, could have been better. It could have created less panic. It could have been less chaotic. The guidelines could have been straightforward so that the institutions wouldn't have been surprised and would have been ready and perhaps would have even met some of the expectations that the Bank of Ghana had of it. Instead of the chaotic nature that it took, we thought that it could have been better. He raised that question. He also raised the question of the cost to the taxpayer and whether that couldn't have been less, considering especially so some of these banks have had to go down because of how much governments and its agencies owe these banks, and contractors who also have taken monies from these banks to do work for government, their inability to pay, and wondered if whatever was borrowed, 14 billion plus, couldn't have been used. Why didn't the government at any point in time even contemplate paying some of these debts, like happened in the case of Ghana Commercial Bank in 2009, 2010, when the energy sector debt became something that was suffocating Ghana Commercial Bank.
What they used to call the TOR debt.
What we used to call the TOR debts. And it almost led to the NPP government under President Kufuor, a selling of Ghana Commercial Bank, and how the government of Professor Mills in 2009, 2010 had to pay some of these debts just to free that stronghold that the debt was having on Ghana Commercial Bank. So he raised these questions. And we thought that the vice president would have been logical, would have been sober, as expected of his office, and provided some logical, answers. But very characteristic of him, he was, as usual, very arrogant about his knowledge in economics and talked down, I call it his oxygen in the NPP, because take out undermining John Dramani Mahama, from the workings of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and you really do not have anything he claims to fame in the NPP. So as very usual of him, he went after his oxygen, something that gives him life. I don't understand,
what's oxygen?
Well, it is something for me that gives him life in
gives
the
Dr.
NPP.
Bawumia life?
Yeah, I mean...
What gives him life?
In the NPP, Dr. Bawumia is celebrated for less, beyond his ability to undermine President Mahama.
Oh no, he's celebrated as an articulate running mate who supported the 2012, 2016. And if you remember the election petition in court, I mean, he was the real McCoy, wasn't he?
Keep your ears on it. And that was all targeted at painting President Mahama as an election thief.
The election petition.
Yeah, keep an eye, keep an ear on, the NPP. And, Dr. Bawumia is celebrated more anytime he undermines President Mahama. So it's his oxygen he lives on. It is his claim to fame. So very characteristic of him, he, instead of providing the logical answers to the questions that were raised, went on his usual rant.
When did the Bawumia speak? Which particular one are you referring to?
There was a platform this week. I mean, early this week.
That he spoke about the banking.
He spoke about the banking sector and sought to create the impression that President Mahama shouldn't even be talking about it. He was responsible for all of that. So, as a minority,
so this press conference was designed as a response to Dr. Bawumia?
It was designed to reiterate the points that the flag bearer of the NDC made, and also to challenge, the government and Dr. Bawumia, inclusive, to, come to the table with better ideas and better, explanations of why they decided to engage on what we call a coup d'etat on the financial sector. Because we all agree that the banking sector needed reforms. But it seems to me that the NPP's understanding of reform is collapse. And so that is why, for example, when even President Mahama suggests that we will review or reform SHS to make it better, the rebuttal is that he's going to collapse it. Because in their dictionary, reform means collapse. So when we all agree that there's a need to reform the banking sector, the approach is to collapse the banking sector. And Paul, for me, it's a simple case of having a problem. And if you fix the problem, you are awarded marks. And the marking scheme requires that you get 3 marks. I want to make it very basic. So if you solve the banking problem and you are able to save depositors, money, you are able to save the indigenous Ghanaian institutions, and you are also able to save the jobs, you get 3/3. The problem is the banking sector. Solve it and get 3/3. Solve it by saving depositors' funds, by saving these indigenous Ghanaian companies, and also by saving the jobs of Ghanaians. Now you go into solving the problem and you come out with depositors' funds, flagging it as, a good work done, forgetting that it means you had 1/3. And we are saying that the solution could have given us all these 3. We could have had 3/3. We could have saved the depositors' fund at less cost. We could have saved the indigenous banks, and we could have saved the jobs, that have been lost. And that is why even before we came on air, I said that perhaps listening to your editorial, I didn't even need to come to explain the purpose of our press conference again. Because our press conference, as it related to the banking sector, was raising the issue of whether the approach, the collapse approach, the panic button that the Bank of Ghana, for example, started, is the best way to go. What about
the infractions that the Bank of Ghana identified?
Nothing precludes the prosecution of the people who may have engaged in one thing or the other that is found to have contravened the law. You could have still gotten all these 3 right and still gone ahead to prosecute people. And you see, when we speak, and to reiterate the former president's position, we say that based on the record of his performance. I've already talked to you about how the commercial bank was saved when he was vice president. Again, in 2014-2015, because he saw the need to fix a problem with the financial sector, there was the assets, review that was done by the PwC in 2014-2015. Now, that is because when you are going to solve a problem, the fact that you are a doctor sitting in the hospital does not mean that when patients come to you, you prescribe any drug. You need to know what is wrong with the patient before you prescribe the correct medication. So there was this, report that established what was wrong. But given the sensitive nature of the sector, that report was not even enough. So it had to even be validated to inform policy, policy choices and reforms that will ensure that we got the 3/3 that I spoke about. Now, in this report, we realize, and people today speak about the role of the Bank of Ghana and how it did not supervise well when it should have, forgetting that after the audit, it was actually identified that the laws governing the Bank of Ghana's operations did not give it the full weight that it needed. And so people forget that we had to amend the Bank of Ghana law in 2016.
To pass what is now Act 930.
Act 930. We had to amend it. That was the process. These were the processes required or needed to have been put in place to ensure that when you are reforming the banking sector, you do so to the benefit of everybody. So we had to pass 3 different legislations. Apart from the, apart from amending the Act, that is Act 930, we also passed the Deposit Insurance Act. We passed the Deposit Insurance Act, and then we also passed the Banks and Special Deposit Taking Institutions Act. Now, these were all in preparation to what had to be done to save the banks, to save the jobs, and to save depositors' funds. But we lost the election in 2016, and this government took over, and we are saying that if they had continued with the roadmap as outlined at the time, we would not have had the situation where we're spending over 14 billion to collapse banks that are owed by the same, government, without anybody even talking about settlement of those monies. And some of these banks contend that if they were paid, how much they are owed by government, they would have been solvent.
Bank of Ghana contends that even if they gave them those monies, in the case of the GS Bank, for instance, Bank of Ghana says that even if the monies that the GS Bank were owed by government were paid, it will still not be sufficient to maintain the required capital adequacy ratio they needed.
But they have not said so about Unibank. They have not said so about Unibank. And Unibank, and these are all cases that are still in court anyway. So the fact that Bank of Ghana disagrees does not make it fact. Because they also contend that they are owed more. But we are saying that if perhaps we had paid, these monies that are owed, and it wasn't even enough to keep them solvent, what about bailout in exchange of equity? That is also an option available to government to have done. Because if you can borrow to collapse the banks, it will make sense to borrow to save them.
And to own part of it.
So why do you borrow as much as you have borrowed just to collapse these indigenous, Ghanaian banks, to make entrepreneurs idle, and also to throw people out of jobs?
And to strengthen foreign banks.
And to strengthen, fantastic. That is.
I have a position on this banking matter, and that's quite well known. But let me ask you, your party today talked about 25,000 people losing their jobs. Where did you get that from?
Well, it is from the figures that we have gotten from the micro loan schemes. I mean, their association have talked about the number of people who have lost their jobs. The banks themselves have also given out, the banks that have been collapsed have also given some data. And so when you put some of these things together, and then you also look at other businesses that depended on these institutions to survive, it's even more than the 25,000, 45,000 that we are quoting. And you see, again, an average family is about, an average worker in Ghana takes care of about 5 people. An average worker.
Worker of what age? 32?
32, yes. Taking 2,000, like you said, or 2,005, takes about at least 5 people.
Well,
the mother, father, your uncle. If you are not married, if you are married, you may have a wife and an in-law and a child. So an average of 5 people. If you are working and taking 2,005, like you have said.
And your wife is also taking 2,000.
So you can multiply you can look at the cascading effects of all these people that have been thrown out of the employment bracket, and they go to add to the number of already existing unemployed people out there. It's a national security threat, like the flag bearer of the NDC puts it, and we must not joke with it.
We'll consider security matters after you left. Thank you very much, Suhini. We have to have time to chat.
Thank you.
How can I visit you in
Anytime.
Parliament? When should I come?
Just give me a call. I'm always at your service.
Thank you. Thank
You've
you so
always
much.
been
We're
the
very
boss.
proud of you. The media is proud of you. That as a
Thank you,
journalist,
sir.
you got into politics and you are doing really well.
I'm humbled. Thank
Excellent. That's Alhassan Suhini, formerly of Radio Gold, Alhaji and Alhaji fame. But now he is the Honorable Member of Parliament for Tamale North and is one of the JM boys, if you like. I'll be back with Dr. Emmanuel Kwesi Enin. We'll be right back.
When the news breaks, if it's complex, we break it down.
Nowadays, it's not easy to have 3 meals in a day in Ghana here. Then maybe you're a drug dealer.
From politics through business to social issues that matter to you.
We are going to see some major changes in 2019.
Covering in depth a wide range of opinions.
Why didn't you listen to all of us? Are we cowards?
We amplify your voice and hold duty bearers to account.
We need traffic lights. We need street lights. We need them to be working with this something to do about it.
Metro News, the power to influence.
So, where is your destination?
Accra, Plantain.
The mental hospital?
Mm-hmm.
Hey! Oh, Jimmy. Jimmy.